The mesh stitch makes the extreme crop sweater perfect for year-round use. Designed to be worn over a camisole and combined with cargo pants or skinny jeans, the extreme pullover has 3 focal areas: the neckline, the lower edge, and the sleeves. Drape the neckline over one shoulder, or adjust the neckline by threading one long cord through the openings along the edge and tie it at the center. Or lace the front and back with 2 separate cords, leaving the ends to be tied at each shoulder. Because the bodice is longer in the back and swoops up ever so slightly in the front, there is no need to do anything to the lower edge. But just like the neckline, you could add 1 or 2 cords along the edge and let the danglies fall where they may. And then we have the sleeves. Keep them loose and allow their length to extend across the hand, or use a cord to cinch them at the wrist or any point along the arm. While the styling options are limitless, keeping the mesh stitch uniform is key to this sweater's design. In this video, you will learn a special technique that guarantees the mesh to be perfectly square, 2 ways to decrease so shaping is flawless, and lastly, how to create a seamless sleeve so finishing is minimal. The companion pattern is available by following the link in the description below. But for now, let's begin. Form a slip knot. And we are going to chain 68. I'll meet you then. Once you have your 68 chains, we're going to roll the chain over because we're going to expose the 3rd loop on the back, because that's the loop that we're going to work in across this entire row. But we're going to count off 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's the 6th loop. That's the place where we're going to put our hook for the very first time. So we're going to yarn over to begin a double crochet, insert our hook into that loop, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. That's our first double crochet. The chain over here that we skipped, the 5 chains, represents a chain at the bottom for a space, a chain at the top for the space, and 3 chains along the side, and it counts as the first double crochet. We finished this double crochet, and we're going to chain 1. We're going to skip 1, and we're going to work another double crochet in the next stitch. Remember, go into the 3rd loop on the back. There's our double crochet. Chain 1 to form the space, skip 1 because that's the base of the space on the very first row, and work a double crochet into the next stitch. And we're going to do this all the way across. At the end of the very first row, you're going to have your chain 1 there, skip this one, and work your double crochet right into the very last stitch of the row. Now, we're going to be turning after this row, but first we're going to do chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then turn. It just makes it easier. The first 3 chains count as the first double crochet on the end, and then a chain 1 space. Now we continue, but this is where it gets very, very interesting. I learned this technique from a Cuban lady, but she was older, and this is a filet crochet technique. And they use this technique to do all the beautiful curtains and fine work down in Cuba. And what she told me was that you insert your hook dead center, not under the top 2 loops. If you did that, your stitches are going to be on an angle. But if you put it right in the center, it makes it really square. So I'm going to insert my hook right here, right dead center in the upper portion of the double crochet. Pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Then I'm going to chain my 1 and skip to the next one. Now let's analyze this. There's my top 2 loops up here, and then there's this third loop. And if you see, there's a little opening right under that third loop, right smack dab in the middle. So I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook right there, boop, right through the middle. Pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And if you can see, it really is straight up and down between the rows. You eliminate the angular part of the double crochet. Now we're going to chain 1, skip that space, and go right into the center. Let's do it again, right there. Not under the top 2 loops, but right into the center. Boop. It's an unusual place to insert your hook, but you get such square little boxes. We're going to be working in the center of the double crochet of the row below from now on. So now all we're going to do is repeat that, where I chained 1 to form the space for the next row, and then right into the center and work a double crochet. It's that easy. I'll meet you when we get to the end of this row. Well, we're just reached the end of our row, but we have one more stitch to do, and I've done my chain 1 here. I'm going to skip 1 chain right there, because remember, this is the 5 chains at the beginning of the round. I'm going to skip that one because that is the top of the space, and I'm going into the next one, and I want to get under at least 2 loops and work my double crochet, because the next 3 chains in this sequence represent the first double crochet of the row below. So I'm just going to work a double crochet into the top of that stitch and complete my double crochet. Now I'm going to chain 4, because from now on the pattern row is the same. 1, 2, 3, 4, turn, and work right into the very center of the next stitch. Since I'm doing a size small, I'll join you when we get a total of 17 rows, because I want to show you how to shape the shoulders. I just finished my 17th row for a size small, and I've turned. I also counted off 8 spaces and marked each side. Now, we're going to be shaping the shoulder, so we're going to be coming across here and working a decrease just after the marker. And how we're going to do that, I'll show you, because this is when we're decreasing at the end of the row. On this side, we would be decreasing at the beginning of a row, but we'll be doing both on this side because we're going to do 3 rows of decreases. Okay, so we're just going to work just like before with our 4, starting with our 4 chains and working right in the center of each of the double crochets, placing a chain 1 in between, skipping the space and going into the next one, up until the marker. And now I'm going to work 1 more double crochet before the marker. After the marker, I'm going to decrease 1. Okay, so I'm back to where there's my marker, so I should have 7 spaces here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The 8th space will be formed on the next, after the next decrease. I will put my chain right there, and now I'm going to begin the next double crochet. And I'm going to insert my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, but I am not going to complete that double crochet. I'm going to leave 2 loops still on the hook. Then I'm going to yarn over, skip over to the next double crochet, and work the first half of it. So now I have 3 loops on my hook. Yarn over and pull through all 3. As you can see, those two stitches came together and angled this edge stitch so that we have just shaped the neckline. But now we're going to turn our work and we are going to decrease at the beginning of the row. And because we're doing a chain up, instead of 4 chains up, we're going to work 2 chains, skip over to this stitch, insert our hook right there, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. Because the short leg with the 2 chains automatically angled that edge. So now we just continue as normal all the way to the end of this row. Now, as you can see, I've shaped 2 rows. I'm going to shape 1 more row. And so I'm just going to work over until the edge where I need to do the shaping. Okay, so if you look, I'm almost there. I have to do my first part of my decrease is in this one, and my second part is at the tip of that one. So, yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Reserve that last half, yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Now we have 3 loops on hook because this is at the end of the row, and yarn over and pull through all 3. And that is our shoulder. We still have to finish this shoulder. As you're coming across here, this is the direction. The first row of decreases is in this direction, which means in this case, the first decrease will actually be at the beginning of the row on this side, while it was at the end of the row on this side. So this one will be at the beginning of the row. When we turn, it'll be at the end of the row, and then it'll be at the beginning of the row on the 3rd row. You see the shaping? Before we add the sleeves, we need to sew the shoulder seams first. Now, match up your pieces, and you should have 1 piece of yarn coming off at either end of each of the shoulders. I've threaded up my yarn, and I'm just going to stitch over to here and come up in the next stitch where I came in right there and came up there right there and brought them together. That starts us out just perfectly. Then I'm going to return to the stitch on this side and stitch over a full stitch. Then I'm going to jump over the seam and come back over here and stitch 1 stitch there. And if you can see, when I pull my yarn tight, it closes it up, and it's a very, very neat seam. Now when I run out of yarn here, which I will very shortly, I'll just pull it up, and there's that seam. Then I'm going to flip it around and start by taking a stitch on this side and coming back right through that end. That'll secure that loop down. There we go. And come over here and do the exact same thing. Now that I know that this is definitely the outside, I'm going to put a pin right on the front. And then I'm going to weave in the ends and seam this second shoulder. The sleeves are worked along the selvage edges of the joined bodice pieces. With the right side facing, attach the yarn in the top edge of the first row of the bodice. It actually looks like the second stitch along the edge. And I'm going to insert my hook, pull up a loop. Now I don't need a long yarn tail, so I'm going to use double strand because I'm going to weave it in as I go. 1, 2, 3 with the double strand, pull that end through, and then I'm going to do a 4th chain. So all I'm doing is doing the same pattern as before, but I'm making sure that I get right into the center of that. And as you can see, it looks just like the other squares, but I'm changing the direction because I'm actually working along the side edge. Now, when you get to the seam, you want to place your stitch right into the seam. Right there. Because that's just going to be assumed as one stitch. I'm at the end of my round. I've stopped one stitch from the end. Just like over here, one stitch from the end. Now I've chained my one, and I'm going to come over here and count up 3 chains right into that chain and slip stitch to join. Now that I've slip stitched it, I'm going to chain 2 and turn it because I need the stitches to reverse each direction. And I chain 2 because I am going to take a decrease right at this beginning of this row. So I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook right into the middle of that double crochet, and complete the double crochet. The chain 2 cause these two to go together. So I've just decreased 1. Now I'm going to chain 1 and then go to the next stitch and work all the way around this round. It's a round because I joined it. But the reason I did that is so that I don't have to do an underarm seam at all. But it's important to know where your join is. And you can always come back and spot that. It's right there. If you want, you can even put a little marker on it so that you know where the beginning of the round is. So now we've just finished our last double crochet of the round. We chained our 1. This is the top of the first stitch where we did our decrease. So I'm just going to insert and slip stitch to join the round. Now this stitch is gone. Okay, so at this point what I'm going to do is chain 4, turn. You have to make sure you turn after each round, okay? Because all we're doing is creating a seamless sleeve. But to stay in pattern, we do have to turn it, otherwise your squares on your sleeve will start angling. Okay? So, we've done our 4 chains, and now we're just going to work this row even. So, we've made it all the way around. So I'm doing my chain 1, and then I'm going to slip stitch right into that junction. So on the next row, I'm going to decrease again. So I'm going to chain 2. I'm going to move my marker in just a second and make sure I turn my work. And to begin, I'm going to work a double crochet right into that stitch, and that creates the decrease yet again at the underarm. So I'm going to put a marker right there so that I remember my beginning. Chain 1, and we're going to work all the way around. Every time we do a decrease, we decrease 1 space. Now you're going to repeat the last 2 rows, which is a decrease row and an even row, which means we don't increase or decrease. So I'm going to work all the way around, but make sure that you turn your work after each row. So now I'm going to add black since my end is now woven in. And notice that this is I've already turned my work. So all I'm going to do is slip stitch right into the top junction of the decrease. And I'm going to pick up my color and chain 3. I'm pulling this end through because I don't need it anymore. And I'm going to chain 1 more because I'm going right into my pattern. And that is with a double crochet, oops, right there. Chain 1, double crochet right into the middle of that one, chain 1, and you can see how you can it just picks up the hint of black. Now I'm only going to use a little bit of black here and there, just a couple of rows, because I'm stretching my yarn, and that's one way to stretch yarn when you don't have enough to finish a project. Plus, it adds a nice and pretty little design feature. Now, if you're finding the decrease is starting to move over on you, like here, see I have a decrease here, I have a decrease here, and it's starting to move over a little bit, you may want to do it a little bit differently and do the decrease at the end of the row. So we just made it around, and as you can see, I'm down to the last couple of stitches. Now this chain came out of this stitch here, so it's these two that I want to decrease over. And I've chained my 1, and I'm going to insert my hook right here, pull up a loop, yarn over it, and pull through 2. Yarn over, go into the very next one, pull up a loop, and complete the first part of the double crochet. That leaves 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, and pull through all 3. Chain 1 and join. And so there you have a decrease over here. So you have a decrease here, a decrease here, and do you see how it moved it over a little bit? You can alternate a beginning of the row decrease with an end of the row decrease to keep the decreases under the arm. Once you've done all the decreases, and this is our last decrease, all you need to do is work the rows until the length of the sweater sleeve that you want. So I'm just turning my work, and I'm just continuing even, and in this case I need to go to row 36. So now that we've finished the sleeves, we're going to return our attention to the front of the sweater, and actually to the underarm. Insert my hook there, pull up a loop, and chain 1. Then I'm going to jump over to the corresponding little corner on the other end and slip stitch it into place. Now this end I'm going to weave in. Now the opening at the underarm is a little bit larger, but that's okay because we need to have some give under there. As you can see, I did it to both sides, and I'm going to count from this corner 1, 2, 3, and into the 4th. And I'm going to mark the 4th space, not counting the big space at the corner. So go to the other side, 1, 2, 3, 4. And here's my other marker. I still have one marker on the front of the sweater. Now, with the right side facing me, I'm going to attach my slub yarn right into this stitch to the right of this 4th space by pulling up a loop in that space. Now I don't want to leave a lot of yarn tail because I don't need to. I'm going to chain 2 using a double strand of yarn. Pull that end through, that'll get woven in later, because I'm going to do a decrease at the beginning of the row. So yarn over, insert it into the next stitch, and work a double crochet. And that angles that edge once again. Now I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to work all the way around the bottom edge of the sweater. Because it reverses the direction again, I'm picking up 1 loop and the bottom 2 chains, or the bottom 2 loops along that chain. So I'm going to pick up this loop here and then go into the space. I want it to be closed up, and as you can see, it doesn't look like I changed direction at all. When I get to the underarm, where that big loop is, I'm not just going to ignore it. Okay, so when we get to the marker, just like on the other side, the two legs of the decrease are on either side of the marker. So we're going to yarn over to work the double crochet, pick up the front loop, and then go right under those top two loops, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through two. Reserve that last loop, and then do the second part of the decrease. Insert our hook under the loops and pull up the loop. There we go. Now we yarn over, pull through two. We have 3 loops on hook, yarn over and pull through all 3. And that angles this one going the other way over that marker. Then we're going to chain 2 and turn. Repeat the last row 3 more times with 1 decrease at the beginning of the row and 1 decrease at the end of the row. We just finished the last decrease row, so chain 4 and turn. The right side of the sweater is now facing you. Skip the next space and begin the pattern stitch over the back of the sweater. I will join you when we reach the shaping area. So we've just made it to our last double crochet along this edge. That's the back edge. However, we're not going to turn around. We're going to continue down and around this edge here. So now I'm going to chain 2 instead of 1, and I'm going to work another double crochet right into the base or the top of that chain. Then I'm going to chain 1 and then go to the next top of a decrease. So here I've just made the transition around this corner very nice and neatly. So I did my 2 chains here, then a double crochet into the very same space that this one came out of. Chain 1, double crochet into the next junction right there, chained 1, double crocheted into the next one, the next junction, the top of the, these are the tops, the decreases, chain 1, then into the next one, right here, double crochet, chain 1. Now, when you get to this one, this is a different type of angle. This one we had to go a little bit further to get around. This one, we don't. So all I have to do is I did my chain 1, work a double crochet right into that junction, right at the corner where I change my direction, and continue along the bottom edge of the front. So just like we did on the back when we first put that initial first row in along that edge, we yarn over, insert our hook under the front loop only, twist our hook around, then go under the 2 loops at the edge. Pull up a loop through that, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 to complete the double crochet. Chain 1. Each cord is crocheted exactly the same way. The only difference is how many chains. Start with a slip knot and just chain. To finish, cut the yarn, weave in any ends, form an overhand knot close to each end of the cord, and just trim. Lace the cord along the edge of each of the openings if desired. So get your swag on with the Extreme Mesh Cropped Sweater. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please take a moment to subscribe and ring the bell to receive notifications of upcoming videos and events. Happy crocheting!